Okay, hello. We are back again. So sorry, I just finished screwing some more things in. I still didn't finish actually screwing in all of the modules that were loose last time, but you know, it's been busy. Anyway, I hope everyone's doing well. Today we're gonna go through the next new module that I had that you probably saw last stream, which is the other Endorphins module here, the Squawk Dirty to Me. It is a 6 HP filter, multi mode. So we're going to go through all those modes. If we have time, either on this stream or on the next one too, just today, the Morphagene had a new firmware release, which I had just upgraded to like 10 minutes ago. Which has some really interesting features, including the ability to set the tuning of the genes that get added when you go up morph, like past, I think it's 1 o'clock or something like that. So we might look at that, but let's just start with the filter. I figured that a good way to show what this filter can do would be using the Instro, the CSL, because it has a lot of complex tones to it. We'll send that through the filter, and we will perhaps control the cutoff frequency with a envelope of some kind, just so that it's easier. We can tap something and trigger it. See how that goes. So let's get something out of the CSL first. I think the best way to do this would just be to take the wavefold output because it's relatively complex. I think I'll turn off any of this stuff. Oops. I apparently haven't plugged this back in at all. So, all right. Wavefold from the bottom, sure. And we'll go into one of the inputs. It is nice that these are laid out at very similarly, actually almost identically. Makes it easier to work with. All right, and we'll come out of one. Just make sure we're in. Go. I believe there's only one bank in this, so it's a little less complex than the Milky Way. Okay. Make sure we get something relatively complex. It's not going to blow our brains out at least. Hey Mac Joe, good to see you. Going over the other Endorphin module today, the Squawk Dirty. So that's decent. It's got some additional harmonics to it. Let's make an envelope real quick. We'll use stages for sake of argument here. So I want this into the cutoff frequency. Yes. Good, that cable's just long enough. It's going all right. It's been a busy week, so I haven't had a chance to screw in a lot of these modules that are still loose in here, but you know, what can you do? How about you? Trigger this. Tetra pad, because that's real simple. Oh, right. This thing acts as an attenuator. Yeah, I know that feeling. I get that a lot at work because I'd rather be here doing this. All right. Just need this to loop so that I can hold it. Okay, so filter modes. There are, I think, 8 filter modes on this thing, which is great. So, in almost every other way, it's very similar to the Milky Way. You've got stereo in, stereo out, or you could do two different lanes processing through the same filter if you wanted to. It can do mono to stereo, which maybe we'll do. So, why not? I don't think any of these filters have any sort of like stereo depth settings or anything of that notion, but might as well try. Might not have needed that long of cables. Anyway, let's turn off the reverb. Wow, that's loud. All right, so the very first one, which is the mode that we're in right now, is a 24 decibel per octave transistor ladder, zero delay feedback low pass filter. So this thing has all the standard controls you'd expect for a filter, cutoff frequency, but we're just controlling it by this envelope. It's got resonance. Yes, right. I think the transistor filters are, the transistor ladder filters are based on Moog filters of some kind, mini Moogs. Yeah, so zero resonance. I don't know if this, I doubt this self oscillates. I gotta be careful of this because I don't want to blow people's eardrums out. Yeah, all right, that exists. That's cool. Let's maybe just make the response of this envelope more. There's more linear response now, and that'll make a little bit more sense to demo this with. Okay. The other thing that this has is a high pass filter at the end of the chain, so that you can use this to filter out any noise that you didn't want. Sort of two modes at once. So get rid of all the mud if you wanted to, if there was some. And the last thing that this has also is a VCA. So if we try, instead of using I don't think that the stages is putting out enough of an envelope. I think this must be a like 10 volt thing, because it's got a much wider range than that. Actually, why? Yep, that sounds good. All right, but let's try it in the VCA. So that's a nice addition to this, I think, is that there's already a VCA built in. So if I was gonna filter something and then use a VCA anyway, I've got a free one right here, so I don't need to use something else. But I think for the purposes of this, we'll use the cutoff frequency and an envelope into there, because that shows it much better than it would otherwise. Let's see if we can get a better sweep with this envelope. That's a bit better. Okay, that's filter 1. Filter 2 is a very classic MS-20 filter. It's a 12 decibel per octave filter. What else does it say? Yes, it has very powerful and dirty resonance. That's pretty typical of an MS-20. Let's see about getting this resonance up there. You can already hear the difference in the resonance. Go back to the previous filter. That's a max resonance on the 24 decibel one. It's a very also breaking up the signal, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's clipping a little bit. But the other one, actually, that doesn't sound as harsh as I would have expected. Interesting. Anyway, it's nice enough. The next one is similar. It's not MS-28, but it is a 12 decibel per octave. But this is a low pass gate. Yeah, so instead of resonance, we're controlling the decay closing time of, they call it a virtual Vactral. So if we ping the cutoff CV with a short pulse of voltage, we can get the bongo sound. So let's see if we can. No, okay. Want this to be. Let's get a longer cable. We'll repatch that in a sec, but it's better to show this with the little pulse. I actually didn't realize this had a low pass gate. I was thinking about getting one on its own, but I did not. Alright, so let's turn the decay down so we get something more pulsy. Yeah. That's pretty typical low pass gate kind of response. It's a very natural fade off. Yeah, cool. All right. That's nice enough. Let's put that patch back together. Gate and CV. Okay. So that's the 12 decibel per octave low pass gate. Then we get, I should have kept it patched. I'll just use the other pad that I have on TetraPad for the, so I can quickly swap this. The other one is a resonant low pass gate. Yeah, this has fixed fast decay, but you can control the resonance with the resonance thing, so. I'm getting much resonance out of that. Let's see. Yeah, I don't hear resonance. Does anyone else? Odd. Is there another one of these like reset things? Oops. No, I don't know what mode I just put it in. This is number 4 should be the resonant low pass gate. There we go. That's better. So. Space sounds. It's actually pretty nice. I think that the decay is actually to some degree based on the cutoff frequency, it sounds like. That's nice. Almost gets formant-like at this level. Very cool. Okay. Sure. Yeah, you've never had a resonant low pass gate. Neither have I. Neither have I. So I've used low pass gates a little bit before, just because they do make nice sort of natural sounds, but I've never really, I can't say that I've ever really felt like I've mastered them or really known what they're totally used for most of the time, but yeah. All right, let's see what else we got. We'll patch this back together here. Turn the resonance down, the cutoff back up. Okay, next filter. This is a 12 decibel per octave DJ isolator style bipolar filter. So this should be interesting because it should just kill a lot of frequencies. Let's see. State variable filter. It's unfiltered when the cutoff knob is in the middle or noon position. It filters high frequencies or low pass when turning it counterclockwise, and low frequencies or high pass when turning it clockwise. So this is probably not going to make sense to use with an envelope, but yeah, it sounds funny with an envelope. So yeah, so high pass on this side. What did this do? High pass on this side. No filtering. And low pass on this side. I don't know that I'd necessarily ever use this if I was a house or techno DJ type person. This would definitely get used a lot. See the resonance. Well, weird. Are we clipping or is that just an interesting artifact, I think. It almost here sounds like it breaks up, right? A similar position on the high pass, or on the low pass side. A couple of them actually. It really starts to almost distort. Weird. I don't know if that's intentional or not. Okay. The next one is still 12 decibel per octave. Is a high pass state variable filter. So it's just a high pass filter, which is interesting because I wonder what the high pass filter here does then, because that's a high pass filter. I don't know why you'd want a dual high pass filter. Yeah, I'm still not convinced whether it's noise, like actual noise, or if that's just the way the filter's behaving. Yeah, because like, whoa. Man. Maybe just to be sure, let me attenuate the output rather than just using the raw output from the CSL. I just want to make sure that I'm not overloading something somewhere in the circuitry here. Yeah, it was totally just too hot a signal coming in. Yeah, that's much better. So I guess with this, what you can do is you can actually bring up the high pass filter and get a resonance at a certain frequency, and then bring up the other high pass filter. Now, does the other high pass filter? I guess the other high pass filter is in parallel afterwards. So you could cut some of that resonance off with this. It's interesting. It's a different way of sculpting things. I'm gonna go back to that last filter and see if it was the same. It was just too hot. Alright, that was... Yeah, actually, to be honest, I haven't had to either, but I guess the CSL is... Well, it's a beast, so... So... This was the high-pass state variable filter. The next one is a band-pass state variable filter, which is always cool. I do like that they've included this high-pass filter that's always in here, because that's one problem that I think I have with a lot of my music is that I want to add other things, but I fill up the bass registers way too easily and way too quickly, and I didn't really have a good way of scooping them out. But in this case, not only can I scoop out the bass registers on sounds that I'm sending in, but then I can also do whatever other filtering I wanted with it, which is cool. This is a pretty typical bandpass. Not much to be said about that, I don't think. And then the last one is the one that I've been really, really curious about, because I don't think I've seen it outside of what Rainmaker has, which is extremely complicated and I still haven't quite figured out, which is it has a comb filter as the last mode. So let's just reset everything. Alright, so it says... in static state, it sounds similar to a phaser. With modulation applied to the frequency, it comes closer to a flanger. So that must mean that it's resonant as well. And that sounds like a comb filter. Quite resonance, but sort of. Let's put that this guy back in it again. If you were to also VCA this, yep. Well, this might be a good choice. It's only 6 HP, and not only do you get high pass, but you also get another useful filter. Got myself one of these little splitter things the other day. See how they work. So let's wait, this isn't actually what I want to do. I want to trigger the VCA, maybe not at the same time, but because cool. Just trying to think about it's usually a way to make this. Let's not do this. Let's just set this manually. Some decent metallic sounds out of it. Some very 8-bit soundy sounds too. Well, that's going to need more playing around with, for sure. Interesting. Okay. What else can we do with this? Because that is all the filter modes. There's not extra banks to mess around with and screw me up like the Milky Way had. Let's try, because this also has that meta modulator mode that the Milky Way had, and that sounded just not good at all. So let's see if this filter one sounds any better. If we can scan between the different filter modes and not have it sound like garbage, that would be great. So, right, let's just reset everything to start, and then we hold this down to enter meta mode. Here we are. The filter type, hey Blackpool, thanks for coming by. So the cutoff frequency is supposed to be a, manual offset to change the filter. The CV input is still the filter cutoff. I really wish I had my TET right now, because then I could make a little sequence in here real easily, but I do not. Still on order. Okay, so and then the meta CV input is on resonance. So I guess you can't really change the resonance, or you have to preset it in this mode. But let's first off, let's keep this open. Actually, I guess we have to have something in here. Let's give this just a raw looping value here. If I change this. I changed that to an alpha. I did not want to do that. I wanted there, latching mode. So I can at least just keep this running. Then we can throw an LFO through. Oops, and go through all the filter types. Let's see if it sounds bad. I think this becomes an attenuator. There's still a little bit of clickiness, but nowhere near what it was on the Milky Way changing algorithms. So can you actually set resonance? I think you must have to exit that mode and like preset the resonance here to something higher. Re-enter the mode. I don't know, it might not let you set the resonance in meta mode, which kind of sucks, because then you're just limited to just the cutoff frequency and that's it. Yeah, that's what it looks like. That's too bad. Still, that's... You can also offset it, of course, a bit. Let's put this back in. Well, it gives you some glitchy stuff, that's for sure. But like I said, it does not sound like the Milky Way did, which was really not great. by the way, since a bunch of you were asking about this last time, or some of you were asking about this last time, I did do a bit of looking, and I think there is a way, or there will be a way for me to get a bot on this stream so you can actually control some CV values over MIDI, but some CV values in terms of the patches we're making. It's probably going to have to, well, actually, I could probably start doing it right now. It's going to rely on the Ornament and Crime here because the Ornament and Crime has a USB MIDI in, and I realized that the MIDI in on the vector sequencer is actually only really useful for synchronization and if you're in record mode to send stuff through, but that's not really what I want. I want a raw MIDI to CV converter for this, right? So that's an option. And I'll be starting to put something together for that. It'll be better off when I get the 1U Ornament and Crime up here because it has a little header that can connect to the USB port on the IntelliGel case, which is awesome. And then everything's like nice and integrated and I don't have to, because right now the USB for the Ornament and Crime is like on the back of the board right in here. So the fact that I have a hole in the case is actually handy right now, but it won't be later on. Won't be there, I mean. Okay, so that was pretty much this module, but like I said, unexpected occurrence today, they updated the Morphagene firmware. So let's have a look at the new features here. Okay, so there's a couple of new things they added. One was, if you watch some of my earlier streams, you might remember me having lots of troubles with the Morphagene's input levels. They're a real pain in the ass. They didn't want to set properly because it samples the incoming sound to set the input levels. Well, now they've set it up so there's basically three or four different like preset input levels that you can toggle between so that you don't end up picking one that's totally off base. So let me just give me 1 second. I gotta bring up the release notes. I have them over here. Right. Okay. So So now it's 4 steps. You do the usual record and shift thing, but you'll notice that the splice changes color. That's to indicate each of them. So let's see. The first one is the blue. So blue is -3 decibels. Green is at modular level. Orange is medium +6 decibels, and purple is high +12 decibels. So, what shall we sample into this? Let's see about the kalimba, maybe. I'm not really sure what level that's going to need to be at, but assuming that my handy little recorder has batteries left, let's see. Yeah, it has batteries. Barely. This might not last long. All right, quickly, let's patch this up then, and we'll try to capture something out of it. Okay. And let's come out. Stereo. Now, once we've got something going, I'll route this through the endorphins too, so that we can do 2 things at once. So let's make sure we got signal. Not yet. Oh. There we go. Okay, let's do some recording. I think where were we at? We were at -3 decibels level. That sounds good. Let's see how that works. Maybe too quiet. At least set this green if I can. Or are you green? Oh, there you are. So sensitive. Can't even let go of the knob because it just is enough to bump you off of green. There we go. Okay. Oh, it's because my recorder died. All right, no kalimba. We're going to do something else. Let's take something we've got in a simulator. How about that? That'll at least make the gain staging simpler because that can just be at modular level and that'll all be good. So what do we got in here right now? Let's take one of the demos. Let's take, I don't know. Let's take these are always fun. Okay. Interesting that that's coming in mono. Maybe Morphagene doesn't actually do stereo to, or mono to stereo. I don't remember, so we'll not. A more interesting one. Wait, these are actually stereo outputs. So I think we've used this one before. We have, but let's use it as a demo because it's nice sounding. And we can take both sides now. Get out of my way. I'll deal with you later. Okay. 5. Interesting. I think that is actually, the module level is too high. So let's go to the blue, which is -3 dB. Yeah, that's better. Now it's not breaking it. Hey Ken, yeah, it has been a while. Good to see you again. We're just going over the Morphagene's new firmware that just came out today, and we already went over the Squawk Dirty, but in a second here, once we can get a demo of the other Morphagene stuff, we will drop it through the Squawk Dirty and see what we can do with it. So, that was part 1, was just the levels that they changed. They also did a bunch of stuff that basically made it so that there's this better signal to noise ratio, so it shouldn't be as noisy, which is nice. But the big thing that they did were a couple of, or 3 actually, options that they added to the text file that you can use to configure a Morphagene. Hey, Nightworks. And those are really cool. So if you know Morphagene, you know. Well, let's record this. Let's add. Okay, let's record something. Maybe. All right, hold on. I'm going to clear this. Something odd is going on there. Okay, so we're going to go in blue mode. We're going to go, I guess, shift record maybe. Or just record. I don't remember what mode I have this set in, but. Oh, I should have flipped it this way. Thanks for the host networks. Okay, so record. Interesting. I'm not quite sure why I'm not recording anything now. I ought to have been. Let me just stab at the play button with a pulse just to be sure. Interesting. Oh, make noise modules. Sometimes you frustrate me. Bring up my cheat sheet and make sure I didn't do anything super wrong. Let's see here. Already deleted all the audio. That's good. The SD card's already mounted, so that's good. All right, record to new should be record and splice maybe. That's not going to work because I have reset it so that it's recording the output after sound on sound, so. Still nothing, eh? There we go. That was my bad. Okay. Now we got something. It's on, the Morphagene's also on the smooth gene transitions, by the way, so you'll hear it sort of have an envelope on both sides, but. So, as I was saying, now that we have something recorded, they added 3 options, which they call them morph chord ratios. So you might remember that once you turn morph past a certain point, it starts adding randomly, not randomly pitched, they're specifically pitched. I believe they're octaves and fifths or something like that by default. Versions of those grains get interspersed in. What they've done now is make it so that you can actually define exactly what, it was an octave and a fifth, and 2 octaves before. Now you can set any ratio you want, anywhere from -4 octaves to +4 octaves. And then I think the coolest thing about this is on top of that, you can also choose to have those randomly interspersed genes play in reverse at whatever octave change you want. So I believe what I did with this was like, one was up a fifth, one was in reverse the same octave, and one was in reverse down like 2 octaves or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but I did a couple in reverse, and I did one that was a fifth. I do remember that. So let's just see what we get. You can definitely hear some of that playing in reverse, right? Let's do it with a more recognizable sort of thing. If we reload what we were doing before on the last song that I put together. We have some spoken word stuff. So if we record that in, you'll very much be able to hear the reverse, undoubtedly. Let's plug this together. Okay. We open. Sounds all the way up. All right.
Beautiful mother is busy all day. So busy
You
she
might
neither
recognize
can
this.
sing nor say, but lovely thoughts in a ceaseless flow through her eyes and her
Okay.
ears.
That's enough of that. Now.
In a ceaseless flow. So busy she neither can sing nor say. So busy she neither can sing nor say. So busy she neither can sing nor say. So busy she neither.
Now you can hear it, right?
So busy she neither can sing nor say.
It's not my girlfriend, this one. No, this was a random recording I found on LibriVox, I guess. They're a very good source of if you ever want to have like audio, spoken audio that's completely in the public domain. It's very handy. But yeah, so now there's definitely reverse parts in there, right? So this is really cool because one problem with Morphagene is that the fact that when you put it up to this high morph level, you know, in the Morphagene, the fact that no matter what you did, it was always one octave and a fifth, and 2 octaves up. For a lot of people, that gave it a very Morphagene sound, right? There was no customizability, and now you can do whatever you want. And the cool thing is, it's not even just like semitone divisions. Liverbox. LibriVox. Liverbox. But yeah, now because you can so it's not just semitones. You can it's based on ratios accurate to 5 decimals. So you can make like a very slightly out of tune version of what you've been doing if you want, which is really interesting. Luckily, in the text file that gets written to the SD card when you load the firmware, it has a whole bunch of defaults there for you, because like if you want like a perfect fifth, the ratio you have to use is like 1.45 blah blah blah. It's like a 5 decimal number to get exactly a perfect fifth. So, but yeah, this is gonna be really useful, and especially the fact that you can trigger, or not trigger, but have reverses played into it without having to mess with anything else. That's gonna be really handy. All right, so let's make this more interesting, and let's throw it through our filter of the day here. We'll just use an LFO and go through the slidey bit.
So busy.
This reminds me of, has anyone ever played the really, well, I guess it's not that old, but it feels old for me, the game System Shock or System Shock 2. This reminds me of like the main villain in that video game. All right, let's put this through our filter here. Okay, so we're not gonna do anything with it from perspective of envelope just yet. Short cables. Okay, I'll take another couple of shorties so we can steal these back. Out of here.
Busy all day. Beautiful mother. Thoughts.
So busy, she is busy. Is busy all
So
the time.
busy. Yes, beautiful mother. Is busy.
Chipmunk effect. Let's go back to the...
Beautiful mother.
Oh, you could get a nice radio sound out of that for sure. That's the 24 decibel per octave filter. Just bring up my reference guide again so I can make sure I got this right. Yeah, so 24, and the next, which is quite a lot of resonance. This is the MS-21.
Beautiful mother. And it's so busy, she beautiful mother.
You could get a very airy sound out of this with maximum resonance if you hit the right frequency. Because it always sounds better. Let's... Might not actually sound that great. Okay, and we got low pass gate, which is not going to be too handy here unless there's a gate that comes out of Morphagene, isn't there? The end of splice gate. Wait, is that where it gets patched into? The low pass gate. Yeah, I don't know if that's actually triggering anything, which is interesting. Let me just make sure. Take a gate from somewhere else. That's terrible. Yeah, you can sort of hear the effect, but the problem is the end of splice gates triggering so frequently that it doesn't have time to really catch up. That'd be the same thing for the next one, which is the resonant version of the low pass gate. And there's the DJ style.
She neither can is busy all day. Neither can
Yeah, it's nice when you don't overload this filter. Definitely does have some limits. If you weren't on earlier, we tried putting a CSL through this filter. If you take it just raw, direct out of the filter, you definitely need to attenuate it, otherwise it causes some pretty harsh noise in this filter. Yeah, I really like it in the low pass, but very, very... the Squawk Dirty is not controlling pitch. No, the Morphagene is. That's what I was talking about earlier with the morphs that are set to different visions. I think it's mostly a matter of we're filtering out, like if we start bringing it down on the low pass side, we're filtering out the upper frequencies, so the higher notes will get filtered faster, right? So. Alright, that's the DJ style one, and then there's the high pass state variable, but that's like... We all know that. It's just a high pass filter. Be resonant. What I'm really curious about, well, I guess we can do the band pass too. Could be useful on spoken word. Yes, this is a Squawk Dirty now, rather than the Milky Way. I wanted a small but super full featured filter, and so far this is definitely meeting the bill. It's got a billion different, well, not a billion, 8 different filter modes in it, all of which I could see some use for. Maybe not the DJ style cut one, but maybe. Anything else that I could find in this size, in this HP size, was either, like, there's, WMD has the MMF, the multi-mode filter thing, which is similar idea, but it didn't have the multiple filter modes. This was not that bad, actually. Both the Milky Way and the Squawk Dirty were about 230 Canadian, so that would be like 100 and maybe 200 US, something like that. So I was quite impressed. It was not that bad for what it does. Alright, now I'm really curious about the comb filter. Yeah, this might be a good choice for you then, Nate. Especially, I've really got to do some more playing with this comb filter mode, because that's not something you see very commonly. It'd be nice if you could make the this track volt per octave. I don't know, maybe it can. Let's try something. Let's patch vector sequencer here. Put its volt per octave into the cutoff frequency. I mean, it might have. I think you might have to get the attenuation just right, but make this sort of playable would be interesting. Let's see. It's inverted, so I guess you've gotta. I gotta take this and throw it through an attenuator. Make it negative. Actually, maybe I can't do that. It's not. Yes, it's a dual filter. Yeah. So stereo or two, but like it's not a dual filter in that you can't have two different filters for each side, sadly. That would be nice, but you could send two disparate signals through. It doesn't have any. It's not like the Milky Way, where it has stereo width or anything like that. But you could send two things through the same filter. Or I guess if you were using that meta mode and you didn't have filtering needs landing at the same period of time, you could always use the meta mode to change the filter before the note on like the right side plays, and then change it back for the left side or something like that. But that sounds pretty complex. At that point, I'd be like, I'll just use another filter. If this was a dual filter, like 2 filters in one on 6 HP, I would have bought this like the day it came out, because that would be amazing value for the space. I was wrong, by the way. It's not that I need to invert this. It's I'm not sure what the name is of the operation that I need to do, but you can see as I go up the keyboard, it actually goes down in pitch. So yeah, I'd have to think about that more with what I want. It's almost volt per octave. Actually, that sounds more like semitones it's going up by, but it's not. I bet you that if you got this attenuation just right, you might be able to get that to track volt per octave. That would be interesting. Is there anything as good as the performance mixture that isn't so huge? That depends. What is it about the performance mixer that you like? Yeah, that was going to be one of my suggestions, was the Faco's option, but yes. If you get them all, it takes up more space. If you get them all, it has maybe a bit more functionality than the WMD with this. So with sends, so yes, the Bifaco side does have sends, and you wouldn't need all three parts to do that. What else can I think of that has the capability of doing sends? If you want something really, really simple, just Make Noise Rosie has a send loop in it. I mean, of course, that's only like, I think if you're using the send loop, then you can only send, and the send loop is stereo, I believe, then you can only send in 2 mono signals and you have to crossfade between them. But yeah, I think you're right that the Fager's thing is 6 channels. I did like that it has like an option to add something that has a like a sort of built-in VCA that comes before each channel, because I mean, yeah, you can send a voltage to the level in the performance mixer, but the problem is that because it's like mixer, the faders are based on like real mixer faders. There's no linear response. It's like, I think it's exponential or some variant of that. So it's anything that you do with working with this level, you need to really customize your envelope to make anything that sort of sounds like what you'd expect out of a normal VCA. So the thing I like about the Bifaco one that I sort of wish the Performance Mixer had an add-on for is the fact that it has like a 3-band EQ built in or whatever. That would be really nice to have per channel. Like, I wish that WMD would build another add-on module that would let you add like a strip of EQ for per channel or something like that. Just like a whole bunch of different knobs. Yeah, the aux buses are my favorite part about the Performance Mixer. So once I get a better grasp on the Milky Way, it's most likely that other aux bus is going to go out to it just because it's so versatile. But yeah, and the Bifaco stuff you could build yourself if you really, really know how to solder. I managed to already bump this off, yeah. Alright, and yeah, that was all the new features of the Morphagene, actually, which is interesting. But like, I think that's the one that's got stuff playing in reverse, and you can set it to whatever note you like, even microtonal if you want it to be that way. I think that's pretty huge. And the fact that I could record this into the Morphagene without getting a bunch of breakup because it can't set the damn auto levels right, that's very nice. You should, Nightworks, you should. If you ever get into building Antumbra's stuff, I'll buy it from you. There's a few module builders I know of here in Canada, but they're mostly into like the mutable instruments clones and stuff like that, and they haven't even got to the point of doing like the mutable marbles clones in smaller versions or things like that. So yes, it is. I think they have a few modules of their own too. Or make a not comparative, what's the word I'm looking for? Make another version of the 1U Ornament and Crime, because I want one, but I'm disappointed in that it's, at least in US dollars, it's almost $150 more for the 1U version than it is for anything that you'd find out there on a normal 3U version. Yeah, the marbles and plats by them is what's going to go in here and here. That's probably going to be my next module thing. Yeah, there's a 1U Ornament and Crime. Plum Audio makes them. They also make like a 1U version of Grids, I think it is. A couple of other things. But yeah, it's like $329, which is... I'm gonna get it anyway at some point because I really want one, but that's way more expensive than it should be, at least based on my not understanding what's gone into making it that small. Yes, I think they have Plum Audio has another 1U module of their own that's called Ants, and it does something along those lines. Yeah, using a screwdriver to adjust, exactly. The nice thing about the Plum Audio 1U Ornament and Crime is that they for like $10 they'll throw in a little adapter that will connect the pins from the Ornament and Crime to the pins on the IntelliGel case, so that you can have USB into the IntelliGel case and then have it come out via like the MIDI in Hemispheres or Captain MIDI or whatever the other modes are that it has in the default firmware. So that's cool. That's what I'm gonna attach the whole bot that I'll eventually put in this channel to. Oh, 1 HP Ornament and Crime. That would have been interesting. I mean, like if you see this right here, that's a 2 HP blank. So 1 HP. Be like 1 HP and I don't know, like a meter deep. And then like, I guess you'd have to have like Bluetooth or something like that and an iOS or Android app to control it. Alright, let me just pull some of these cables I was using out. This is a little more interesting. Yes, I get it. So busy. So busy. Let's figure I'll make a more complex little LFO here. Alright, well, to make this a all endorphins patch, why don't we throw this through the Milky Way from last time? See what kind of weird effects we can give this. Yeah, I'm especially excited for this new mode, because that's the one thing that I didn't like about Morphagene was that stuck in an octave, fifth, and 2 octaves. It's much more fun if you can customize it. Although I wish that you could customize it without having to take out the SD card, edit a text file, load it back in. But, I mean, there's only so much you can do with the interface they have, right? It's good that they're still developing it. Okay, so... right, so we're going to come out of the filter. Yeah, right. I don't know. A 1U Morphagene, it's just a light bar. and then you interpret what's going on based on the light bar. That sounds right up Make Noises alley, actually. Okay. Oh, we're still in distortion mode, obviously, from last stream. Interesting. Just gonna change this LFO to make it not bipolar. I don't remember if there is a way to do that. Your Tesla coils to blink. That would be cool. The closest equivalent I can think of is that that Erica synth, the fusion module or whatever they have, that has that cool like it makes like a plasma thing or whatever the hell, and like used for distortion or something like that. Yeah, I think that's what it's called, something like that. It looks really neat. I'm not surprised it's expensive. Wanted chipmunks? I was kind of curious about the shimmer reverb with this. Let's choose a more interesting filter. Whoa. It's funny to listen to the shimmer reverb keep up with the whistling from the resonance. Then we throw reverb on it. Decide to offset the EQ and effects after a real mixer to save more space for rack gear that you can't get in pedals and stuff. Yeah, and that's fair. I think that the large, well, actually from here, I don't think any effects I'm gonna get are gonna be in Eurorack, because yeah, to be honest, I find that I don't modulate the effects that much. I just like them being there and like in the same format, and you don't have to do any weird conversion to patch things together. But now that I got the pedal 1U, that's my next thing, is getting a more interesting pedal collection. And plus, pedals are more portable. Like I can take these two, I have to, you know, take them carry on, blah, blah, blah. Pedals, I wouldn't feel so bad just chucking them in a bag and throwing them on a plane. But a mixer, yeah. I mean, what I had previously with this whole setup is I had one of Behringer's X-Air mixers. I don't know if you've seen them before. They basically look like a black box that you plug a bunch of stuff into, and then it has like an iPad app that you control the mixer with, and it's quite an advanced mixer. It's got like all kinds of different effects and like different buses you can send things through and like multiple aux outs and blah blah blah. And that would be super portable as well, because it's like I had the XR12, so it doesn't do multi-track recording, but can record directly to USB, and it's like I think it's 3U tall, so maybe. But yeah, I wanted more control over the actual mixing. That's why I went with the performance mixer in the end. Yes, I agree. Behringer's, I previously, way previously used a full-on analog style Behringer mixer, and that, yeah, was not nice. But the XRs are actually, like, I never had any issues with it. It was, not only did I use it for this stuff, but I also used it, like in my day job, I do a lot of recording of training videos and stuff like that, and so I used it to like mix audio from a mic and all this sort of stuff, and like, yeah, I never had any issues with it, but I just wanted to have everything here touchable and patchable, and yeah. But yes, I think to Blackwell's point, yes, it will be a better solution to have the pedals for a bunch of different like effects, especially when I want to swap stuff in and out. Like, I know that I'm always going to want Rainmaker in some fashion or another, and Endorphins gives me a lot of flexibility. But then, like, what if I get, like, you know, the Earthquaker devices has the Rainbow Machine, which is like a freaking bizarre pedal, and like I wouldn't want it permanently stuck in some amount of space in my rack, because I'd probably want to swap it out all the time, and swapping things out of this is a pain. But you blew out 3 channels and 2 mixers. Whew. Jeez. Like, just pure random happenstance failure, or did you actually put a really hot signal into them and blow them out? Just normal wearing. Wow, brutal. The problems that I always had with the Behringer mixers with their preamps sucked, so it was just like the noise levels were like out of control. You'd patch stuff that you'd listen to straight from headphones coming out of here, or actually back then I was using just like desktop synth and coming out in the headphones it'd sound great, but then you plug it into the mixer and you just get this constant like low level hiss. Something so like the faders actually just sort of gave out on you, like physically crunchy or like noise wise crunchy. Physical jeez, brutal. Well, I mean, much as Behringer is sort of killing it on the market right now in terms of like making all these clones of a million different things, no one really ever said that they're doing it with the highest of quality, right? But I mean, you also have to think about like some of the stuff they're bringing out recently, like that are clones of Moog modules that are, you know, like their Pro D or whatever it is, the clone of the Model D that's like $3,000, but the Behringer version's like $300 or whatever. It's like, well, you know, at that point, though it may be crap quality, it's kind of like, if you want that sound, it's almost a no-brainer, right? Yeah, I saw some sort of thing going around on Facebook about that people were quite I wouldn't even say aggravated. I would say they were full on super pissed off about them using some internals, and I believe you're right, it was from the XRX box. But then there was a bunch of people arguing back and forth about it, that like that there's no such thing as open source when it comes to hardware, and I don't know, it was there was a lot of shady, ethically shady, but maybe not sort of stuff that's going on in that respect. I don't know. I'm just happy that they're making cheap Eurorack cases, because that was one of the biggest hurdles for me to get into Eurorack, was that, oh my god, I have to spend how much on a case just to spend how much on modules. But with a $300 case or whatever it is that they're making, that should be a gateway for a lot of people. And I definitely think more people should be trying modular, because even if you don't know the first thing about music theory, you can make cool sounding stuff on modular, unlike most synthesizer setups where you really do actually sort of need to know what a keyboard is and how notes relate and blah blah blah. Modulars just patch random stuff together, and occasionally you'll get something that sounds cool. Is the tape? Yeah, this is the tape. Let's try the other effect bank. See what I mean, by the way? All those popping crazy sounds? That's the exact same thing that you get when you use the meta mode to scan between these algorithms. Is every once in a while you just get like something goes all wonky and explodes. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain. I'm not 100% convinced that I updated the Milky Way properly. I might give it another flash of the firmware and see. It's one of those you have to send in an audio signal ones that, you know, you never quite know if it really did work properly. Well, I guess you do in some cases. Like Morphagene is really great. It's updated via audio too, but when you start it up, it like the reel and splice lights show you what firmware version you're on, but the Milky Way doesn't show you anything when you start it up. You have no idea if you're running the latest or not. Which is annoying. I think this might be the chorus one. Is this another one of the delays? I don't have the quick start thing up here. Ooh. That's like the phaser flanger. I'm really, you might not have seen in the last stream we got into distortion, but I'm really surprised at how much I'm actually liking the distortion effect, or the overdrive technically effect on this. Yeah, definitely. I still think that I like the shimmer effect the best on it. It's just really wild. Especially with moving the cutoff frequency. In a super, super abstract way. Take a signal and split it 3 ways, and then recombine with wavefolding and stuff to see what insanity could be done. Yeah. Are you when you're talking a signal, you're talking like a sample playing or something like that, or you're talking CV? Yeah, I mean some of that exists on the CSL to a degree. Right? The wavefolding can be influenced by the sine wave from the other side and stuff like that, but sure that you'd probably need a dedicated wavefolder module to do what you're talking about. Like one of IntelliGels or something like that. Yeah, it's definitely something I need to investigate more because it's so big. Especially once I'm quote finished this system, I've got like a million things to investigate in it. I'm gonna have years of making this, finding different ways to make this do what I want. You're obsessed with doing it by hand. Fair enough. Like with the constituent parts that are necessary, makes sense. Bumping this camera. Let's try some other filters with this. Yeah, the cone filter could be interesting with this. Thanks. Appreciate that. Kind of what I was going for is enough flexibility and enough sound sources that there's as many combinations as I can possibly come up with in my lifetime, pretty much. Once I get the crossfade module and the maze in here too, so that I can recombine signals and find different dynamic patchings, it's going to be even more interesting. And then finally when I get my TET, one day. Yeah, right. Yeah, it is depressing every time I look on Modular Grid and look at my eventual plan, which I'm not that far off from, and look at how much it's going to cost, and I'm like, oh god. Oh, that's cool. If you actually set the Morphagene in reverse, then when the genes play in reverse, they play forwards. Yep. Where should I go from here? Take another LFO and do that cutoff frequency because that is interesting sounding. Not that fast. Hello, baby lord. I think I've seen you around before. It's good to see you, and thanks, Ion Upheaval, for the follow. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, what we're doing here is hopefully a little more interesting. Let's see if I can get this cutoff frequency doing something better here. Not for you, eh? It just means you haven't learned enough about it yet. The Behringer System 100, yeah. It's an interesting move for them. I mean, making a bunch of cheap Eurorack stuff, I think, is a good thing. Especially like to get more. I was saying this earlier. Especially the cheap rack that they've made to get more people into Eurorack is great because it's such a high barrier to entry for the most part. So I'm all for that. And I have heard of the Deluge. Yes, that's been something that I've always considered whether I want to have as a little jam box for travel and stuff like that. I've just never got into it, but well, I think the System 100 was like the first modular, or not the first modular, but one of the earlier modulars ever made, right? That was pre the Eurorack format. It was like 5U or something like that, right? Not 3U back then. How did you find the menu diving-ness in the Deluge? Because that was something I was always worried about with it. It seemed a little abstract, but yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it was a different scale, but and of course back there all analog. And I don't know, I didn't check and see whether the System 100 that Behringer's doing is also fully analog, or whether it's a like a virtual analog setup. Yeah, we were just talking about this earlier, actually. It is good to see Behringer spitting out new things, but it's also, there's some of the stuff that they're doing is a little ethically shady, not really sure about whether, I mean, yes, they're technically allowed to take stuff that was not really open sourced in the hardware space, but should they be? I don't know. It's one of those things that I can't decide where I land. I think that I mostly land on it's a net positive just because it gets more people into the Eurorack space, but, you know. There's also the ones, they're not Behringer. Who the heck made them? They're in like these bright neon colors that came out recently that are relatively cheap. Oh. Which are those? I don't remember. I think that DivKid did a very, very recent video on them, but I can't remember the manufacturer. Those also look cool. Yeah, Ableton with a complete. Yeah, I used to have the whole complete thing back in version 9, I think, and it was intense. Yeah, I kind of wish that I could export all the sample, or I still had it, so I could export all the samples out of it and drop it on a giant SD card and drop it in the assimilator. That would be nice. Yeah, Ableton plus modular is a pretty powerful combination. Not for me, but that's mostly just because I don't like looking at screens if I can avoid it. Which is ironic because, you know, streaming, I have to look at a screen a whole bunch of the time, but I still have fun. I guess I'm not making music with a screen. No banging. People want to come in here and talk about synth stuff. Whenever you like, you're allowed to drop it. Noise. I don't know that I've... Rings a bell, but I don't know that I've heard of that. Noise. Oh, it's a DAW. Okay. I've never... Even if, like I said, it rang a bell to me, but I didn't know it was a DAW. Cool. Ah, okay. So like the nerd seek. Yeah, personally, I don't think I could go back in the box for that kind of stuff, drawing out notes and all those kind of things. I don't miss doing that at all. Which is funny because you sort of do draw out notes on the vector sequencer in a way, but like it's more hands-on. Noodle. No. Let's see. I get an artisan pasta shop that's close to me. It's obviously not that. You'll have to. What is the noodle? You tell us. What is the noodle? Because I can't find it. Let's see. Noodle. Oh, NDLR. Let's see what this thing is. I need to set up my thing so you guys can see the browser that I'm looking at too. Twitch is annoying like that, or I guess OBS is annoying like that. It doesn't... You have to run Chrome in non-hardware accelerated mode for it to capture the window, and I always forget. The Noodler is a MIDI 4-track sequence arpeggiator, chord player, and drone. Interesting. I used to have a Spark Pyramid as a sequencer back when I did a bunch of hardware synth stuff. That was really nice. I always wanted one of those. What's the name of that? It's like a in a 3U rack format. It has like the awesome like old school keyboard keys on it. You have to like sign up in like an 8-year long waiting list to get one, and they're like 1,200 or some craziness for them. They always looked really cool. What was that called? Let's see. A Circlon, yeah. Does any of you guys know have a Circlon? Because that thing was always, I was quite envious of that. Yes, that's the thing. You have to be in like a waiting list for years to get, and it is super expensive. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna have to find him on Twitch then. You guys know all these people that that are impossible to find if you don't know the other people that know them, I find. Alright. Let me get him on here. Wow, Moog pedals, nice. Oh, I am actually already following him. He just hasn't been around for a few months, I guess. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, it's good to see that there's like almost a little bit of a community that's formed around this on Twitch. It's really cool. Just need someone to get Twitch partner or whatever so that you can make a stream team. Yeah, my starting out modules. The very first module I bought, I actually still have, and it was the microburst up here. At the time, I had an analog 4, an original analog 4, and I was coming out of that, going through the microburst, and then out to a mixer, and using some of the CV outs to modulate the microburst. What did I get after that? I think rings might have been the next thing I got, just because it's so ubiquitous, right? And actually no, the next thing I got was a Disting Mark IV, and then I got rings. And then I don't remember where it went from there. I've gone through a lot of modules over the last few years. But some of them have stuck around. Some of them have actually stuck around, so... Personally, I think it's best to start out with whatever it is that you're lacking in your current non-modular setup. So, like, oh, is he? Cool. That was really right now. He just like showed up as I was talking about him. What do I think about the Hermod? I considered getting the Hermod. because I had the Squawk pyramid before, which is pretty much like I mean, the Hermod is basically a modular version of the Squawk pyramid for all intents and purposes. It's and as a result, it's great if you're sequencing MIDI, or you want to enter MIDI and have it go to CV in this case. Like, if I did a whole bunch of like creating MIDI sequences like in Ableton, export the MIDI file, import it into Hermod, play it, I would definitely have a Hermod or something along those lines, because it does that pretty well. It does that very well, and it does a lot of other sequencing stuff pretty well. Like, it has chance operations like the Vector does. It has like other like I think like MIDI LFOs and stuff like that. I don't know if that's applicable to the Hermod, but it was on the Squawk. So you're explaining. Okay, I will do that. But yeah, overall, I would say the Hermod is a good choice, but you also better like menu diving and dealing with a really small screen, because it's very much a you have to go in and fiddle a lot if it's anything like the pyramid was, which almost definitely was. Okay, let's see. Gear splitting. Cool. Let's not have this echoing into my microphone. Yeah, well, I wouldn't even say that I'm more into like hard sequencing on here. Like, I use the vector sequencer because it has a lot of generative capabilities and a lot of like you can press a button and have the sequence evolve and stuff like that. So I like to treat things that way, and like if I find an interesting sequence that I like, I can also program it in with the keyboard and things. But I'd like, yeah, drawing notes, gross, like, yeah. And yes, as Nightwork says, I work on computers. I don't want to touch them for creative stuff. It just kills my creativity. So. I haven't seen Behringer's sequencer module. If it's like the System 100 sequencer, then it's probably quite old school, right? Like a bunch of sliders in essence. Alright, well, seeing as this gear splaining thing is on, and I might as well send a bunch of you all over there, and it's getting towards time for me to drop off here anyway. I think I'm going to do that. I'll send you over in that direction, so one sec. Yeah, so that was a decent demo of actually all of the new stuff. The Morphagene's new setup, the new firmware, Squawk Dirty Filter, the Milky Way effects. That was it. Yeah, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So I will be back again on Saturday. And for now, send you all over there, and I'll join in there for a little bit. Let's see. It is a great starting point, though. I do agree with you there. Okay, and we're all ready to go. I will talk to you all later.